voice of growth, mastering the mind and market. Welcome to the Voice of Growth podcast, Mastering the Mind and Market. My name is Manny Teran, and I'm your host. As we kick off this new year of 2026, I wanted to tell you my story and remind you that every person on this earth has their own story. There's an arc there of where they came from, where they currently are, and of course, where they're going. The hindsight is 2020, right? In the back, we can see where we came from. We can clearly see where we are by our own senses, our own sense of being. And the future, our ambition, our direction is, although we do have momentum behind it, it can still be altered and changed. That's the beauty of it. So every life is shaped by experiences, and mine was shaped less by discomfort or comfort and more by curiosity, by loss, and by discipline. And I'll get to this in a minute. What drives me is really the integration of mind, market, and meaning. And certainly, this is all tied to identity, which I talk about a lot. That identity is core to establishing the trajectory of our life and, of course, can change and adjust as we not only face new things in our life, but decide that we want to go in a different direction. A lot easier said than done, of course. So to start off with, I'm going to break this down into 3 phases, each about 18 years. And that will give you an idea of why I do what I do and will show you the direction of where I want to take the balance of my life. Now, this is tied to the Amor Fati, the idea of that we should love our fate. Whatever hand we are dealt, love it. It's oftentimes hard to do when we're faced with lots of issues, when we've got madness, when we've got things in our life that are challenging. It's hard to love our fate. If we look backwards, it's sometimes a reminder that, hey, we're still here. We're still alive. We're still cranking through this. And so let that be a reminder to you that this too shall pass, and there's exciting times in front of us. Love thy fate. So phase 1 is foundations of character. This is where I came from. You know, my father passed when I was very young, a little over a year old. My mother moved us back down to her hometown, and that loss, the lack of not having a father, really defined me for the rest of my life. I was raised by my mother, my grandmothers, a lot of women in my life, and what that gave me, it gave me a very unique perspective, an acumen to understand people in a very empathic way that many men in particular struggle to find. Now, I'm not saying that I'm in full command of this. I'm saying only that I've come from this. And in sales, in negotiation, and in interpersonal relationships, in being vulnerable, man, that has been a game changer for me. And this really added on to my curiosity that came from an early age. I was always interested in how things worked. I dismantled a clock radio to see how it worked. And I was always chasing after a deeper understanding of the foundational pieces of engineering and science. And although I wasn't super deep into any one of them, I did establish a high-level understanding of how things worked. I was also very creative, and I had an artistic slant as well, from doing small art projects to even being in a band. And I kind of gained a love for music in my 15, 16 time frame, and I expressed it by playing guitar. I was in marching band in high school and in junior high. And also, I used nature as a classroom. I was in Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. And to me, nature brought me closer to God. You can name it God. You can call it the universe. You can call it whatever you want. That's the beauty of it. For me, it was God. For me, it was a path, a connection to a greater sense of purpose and at the same time, a complete revelation that we're so insignificant, it doesn't matter. So as you can tell, those are very early Stoic seeds that I was able to garner from being in touch with nature so much. I was also exposed very early on to an interesting kind of inequality. This too has guided my entire life. My mother, being a single mother, working her butt off, working 2 jobs, to the fact where I was a latchkey kid. I'd come home with my key, open the door, and my mom would have dinner on the stove ready, and she wouldn't be there, and she wouldn't get home until 9 or 10. And so she worked so hard to provide for our family. And at the same time, she had cousins that were able-bodied, but were able to game the system to get government assistance, disability, whatever. And I'm not necessarily naysaying that that's a bad thing, but I am saying that many folks take advantage of it. And to me, that really guided me deeply in life and created a sense of individualism that is true for me today. And although it was very conservative rooted in when I was a younger kid, it's now morphed into more a libertarian mindset, which has really defined everything about who I am. So from this young stage being in Scouts, I also developed a love of leadership. Leadership as a practice, leadership as a study, leadership as a way of life. And that to me as well has been a defining thread through and through my day-to-day existence, even today. I was also exposed to a very strong work ethic by my family. Everybody in my family was very, very hardworking. My mother, my stepfather, my grandmothers, my grandfathers, everybody really leaned into it. And this might have been to some detriment as well, because I oftentimes have a hard time letting go. I have a hard time, quote unquote, relaxing and just sitting there. If I watch a movie, I just have a little bit of guilt. And I can only really watch one movie. And I watch maybe one movie every couple of weeks. It isn't like I watch things all the time. And I feel this guilt, and I don't know where it comes from. It must come from that. But either way, it has been a game changer and giving me that voracious appetite for growth, personal success, and so forth. Now, we'll go into the next level, which is phase 2, ambition and exposure. This is from ages 19 to 36. The previous one, of course, was from 0 to 18. In this time frame, I was a college student, and the world opened up for me massively. I saw different cultures. I saw different ideas. The systems and the opportunities all presented themselves during this college landscape. I was no longer at home, so I had lots of autonomy, lots of freedom, lots of ability to explore. And in this way, I also expanded my leadership abilities. I became president of my university fraternity, and as such, was able to really put into practice a lot of what I had developed in my earlier phase 1 world, but also bring in these other culture, these other things that help to elevate my game. Through this process, I pursued the quote-unquote traditional success, the white picket fence, the find a girl, marry, have kids, have a wedding, and all that, which I kind of thought that's what life was all about. I didn't really have much of guidance in this domain. I didn't have people that would sort of walk me through the process or give me some deep guidance. I was just kind of figuring it out. And with that corporate success, there was no fulfillment. I always felt challenged by kind of doing the thing and not seeing that it was part of my giving to the world. It was part of somebody else's giving to the world. So that little piece stayed with me throughout time as well. And even today rings through that for me, corporate is a means to an end. And although I am CEO of a corporate company today, to me, it is really about the people. The corporate structure as it lays is fine, nothing wrong with it. But to me, the people that make up that corporation is what really makes me happy, fulfilled, and makes me get up in the morning excited every single day. I was also during this phase exposed to very powerful and very wealthy people. That exposure gave me a foundation of what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Now, of course, wealth is sometimes defined by how much you accumulate, how much you have of this money, of this stuff. And although that's important to some degree, what I began to learn is that there's a huge wealth and richness in freedom and in choice. I also traveled during this time frame, and I remember going to Italy, to the Amalfi Coast, and all this travel we did in this time frame, early time frame, where I'd see these people, these jet setters that were walk into executive first level class, or even as we'd pull into the airport, they were going to the private jets. And so it gave me the sense of, wow, they have a certain level of choice and freedom that many folks out there, including myself at the time, did not. I also looked for mentorship. Mentorship back in this time frame was hard to find. Sure, there was people that I could talk to about certain very specific questions that I might have had, but I didn't really have a mentor, somebody that took me under their wing. Not having a father, not having somebody close in my family that did that for me, created kind of an itch for me that to me now is part of why I'm providing this service, this amount of mentorship. But that was early on in my career, and I had to piece together elements of mentorship. The social media machine didn't exist back in the day. There was no gurus per se in the same way there is today to divvy out mentorship or concepts or ideas. It was different. So I picked up books. I was able to sort of piece together mentorship through that. And that really today even gives me a sense of what I want to give back to the world. This phase was about accumulation, not of wealth, but of clarity and of experiences. In this time frame, I was also introduced to my wife, actually, who is not my wife anymore, my former wife, and I began that whole white picket fence landscape, which, as you'll learn in a second, changed drastically. All right, the next phase, phase 3, is about integration and purpose. This is from age 37 to now. Not quite 18 years, but close enough. So in this time frame, I founded a company called Azterra. Azterra was a company that brought together the electrical, software, and mechanical engineering to create products and services for other organizations. It was an amazing time in my life. There was so much dynamicism. There was so much motion. There was so much growth. It was an exciting time. I grew this. I started the process just myself, and I brought in people that helped to elevate it to higher and higher levels. My leadership abilities went from a linear growth path to an exponential and maybe even a hyperbolic growth rate. I was doing so much. I got my PhD, if you will, in business during this time frame. And that business acumen really was paired with some personal loss at the time. So during this process, I experienced a divorce, which was a very, very difficult time in my life, especially having young children. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And this was a bit of an identity reset. From having the white picket fence, when having the marriage and the perfect wife and the kids and the house and all the stuff, to having basically it all scratched away from my roster, I was like, what the hell's happening? And it was during that time frame that I began to learn about Stoicism, learn about what really matters in life. I learned about very early on about mindfulness. And that to me was what bridged the gap between Stoicism as a theory to Stoicism as a practice. I remember during the early days of, I was still married, but we were going through the separation process. I just couldn't grasp what was happening. We had just had a conversation prior saying that we were so lucky to still be together while others in our same friend group were divorcing and all this. And I couldn't sleep. I was sleeping an hour or two a night. I was walking my dog in the morning. It was just a very tumultuous time. But now looking back, that heartache is what shaped me and gave me the perfect opportunity to grasp and to really suck in that Stoic mindset that would define me to who I am today. All that we endure in life builds us up to who we are today, with the caveat that we need to self-reflect and think about how that will go forward in our life. I would give a lot of people power over my personality, my actions, my behaviors. I'd give too many people power. What I mean to say is that people would make me angry. You hear that word? Make me angry. Nobody can really make you angry except for yourself. So at the time, I would always blame other people for my anger, for my happiness, for my whatever. Now, I totally understand it's all up to me. It's all up to how I frame it. It's all up to how I respond to it. The whole essence of Stoicism, right? How we respond to these things. I also experienced during this time a lot of introspection, growth, happiness by finding another love in my life. And through that process, integrated families. I mean, my two kids, her two kids, we brought them together. And that was a bit of an enlightenment for me. It was a renaissance. It brought me to a deeper understanding of mindfulness, a deeper understanding of my own limitations. And just like any good partner does, they show a mirror to your face. And that mirror still had a lot of unresolved issues. That mirror had a lot of things that were still dark and ugly for me. And I didn't understand how to work through that. I had a lot of challenges in my own self. And although that relationship came to an end, we never actually got married, it did give me so much introspection, and it gave me back my power so that I was no longer giving power away to people. I didn't react the same way I used to. And it was a tragic loss because she was somebody in my life that was so life-changing that I hope that she understands what she's done for me, because she provided that training ground. And I hope that in her life, she has recognized what part I played in helping her in her personal growth. And this is what life is all about. I've said this many times before. Life is a full contact sport. We're going to get hurt. We're going to have issues come up. And that's part of the beauty of it. We get to be involved in this life. I saw a Lessons Played a few days ago that said, we get the number 2. We get to be in this situation. If I feel sad, if I feel down, if I feel cheated, if I feel frustrated, if I feel entitled, whatever feelings I might have, I bring that phrase to mind. I get to. So that company I told you that I started as Terra, in this phase 3, came to a crashing end. It was not a glide path. It was slamming into the mountain. And that to me was foundational in who I am today as well, because that gave me the impetus to then create this podcast and now be the CEO of IR Labs and so forth and so on. But let me come back to why I mentioned that. I sit here and I drive past the building that I once owned, this beautiful multi-million-dollar building, 35,000 square feet. It was just, I loved it there. And I think to myself, rather than, oh crap, I lost that, and woe is me, and looking, I'm going to cry in my spilled milk and this and that. No, I flip it on the side. I say, I got to do that. I got to be at the helm of this dynamic, growing company that provided an economic impact into the region. I changed lives by having that idea and working hard and bringing on the right people, and they added to my vision, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and then it didn't, and then it ceased to be what it is. But the tendrils, the foundation, the calories that fueled that company remain in the muscle of today, in employees that used to be mine that I talk to all the time, or even customers or clients. It's all part of that continuum, that fabric. And I got to do that. And every day, even now as I'm running IR Labs and I'm doing this podcast and so forth, I get to do these. I get to have these conversations. So if you are feeling down, spend some time with gratitude, because that "I get to" phrase is a mirror of gratitude. It's like the gratitude is the root system, and the "I get to" are the sprouts that pop up. The experiences that are losses are equally as important as the ones that are major wins. And so what drives me now that we've gone through the 3 phases of my life, I feel a duty to share my lived wisdom, not as a platform for my expertise per se, although I do offer that to a handful of clients. It's more of a platform for exposing my shared wisdom so that others might see that and might alter their future trajectory. Tying back to that arc I mentioned earlier, the previous arc of our past is already set. Where we are today is where we are today. We can experience this by looking around, by being part of the moment, right? Mindfulness. But the future, although we do have the momentum of the past and a bit of the guidance of the present, we can still alter the future. We can still make adjustments, remembering that people don't change very much, including yourself. And change, especially in the personal development or career domain, is extremely difficult, but it can be done. I've said a couple of podcasts about this. There's many other things you can do. There's the atomic habit stuff. There's identity change. But fundamentally, we have this amazing opportunity to change the trajectory of where we're going. So I want to curate and translate these insights from myself and from other business leaders. When I have somebody on my show that has seen so many things, and it's unfortunate that we only have 1 hour or less to talk about it, because some of these folks have decades and decades of experiences to share. And part of my goal for 2026 is to continue the process and bring people that will enlighten us in different ways. I'm going to bring people from all levels, people at the corporate level. We are talking to the former CEO of a very massive department store who's going to be on our podcast in February. I'm talking with a bunch of people that are in the social media domain, which is important because it's a new domain, it's a new kind of business, and there's lots of activity in that business. But I really want to bring it back down to the business side and the growth. How do they get there? That's really important. And, I want to help people avoid the decades of unnecessary friction that can hold you back from massive growth. Friction is important. Friction needs to be there. But if it's overwhelmingly strong and if it prevents you from actually getting off the ground, then it's a problem. So growth must be intentional, must be resilient, and really needs to be value anchored. Who are you fundamentally? Who are you in that phase 1 part of your life where you were exposed to early values? And then the phase 2 is when they sort of set like a hook in a fish. And then phase 3 in life is when you can really start to create massive momentum driven by that value system. Now, that value system is very personal. It is put out there in the world in very specific ways, very tactical ways. But if you take a few layers back and you wait enough time, your values will be exposed. There's a few things that I'm still dealing with today from my Aztero days that I wish I could talk more about, but it really shows that I'm committed to honor my value system, even if it takes me a decade to do so. And one of these days, I'll talk more about what that means. True success is tied to the ability to handle success, which is tied to a change in people's lives. I equate success by How much personal freedom can I create for myself and for my family? Personal freedom, of course, is tied to financial freedom. And also, how many lives can I touch? How many lives can I bless with the same blessing? I'm telling you what, when you are able to give somebody a new skill or a lot of money or a renewed sense of self, and it changes their life, man, that is extremely humbling and should be respected. And that's something that I don't take for granted. I really make sure and even call people that they used to work for me, I used to work with, because they still mean a lot to me. Every employee out there that I had in many years ago that helped me to become the person I am today, positive or negative, right? These are all just experiences I'm very thankful for. So if you've worked with me, for me, alongside me, or were my boss, I thank you so much. I thank you so much for the experiences that you gave me that led to me being here today with this pulpit, with this ability to share my story. And I'm looking forward to so many other things that being the CEO of Infrared Labs is extremely fulfilling. Lots of interesting things happening there in the future. And I'll bring you up to date on some more things as they unfold. Being the founder of Profectory and the handful of clients I have now, and I'm able to service and give my experience to, fantastic. As being the host of the Voice of Growth podcast, very humbling, very proud of that. And my singular focus among those things in the business domain, I'm not talking about my family, my personal growth, which is a different aspect, but from the business side, those three elements is really helping leaders master their mind so they can master their market. Leaders that are leading Infrared Labs, so people that work in the business today, people that are part of my clientele in Profectory, and people that I'm reaching via this podcast, via social media, those are all servant leaders. Those are all leaders that by having a better grasp of their mind, they can master their market and create that massive change, that massive momentum, that looking forward in life, you can look back and have that sense of accomplishment, of growth, and of giving the gift and the blessing of changing people's lives. So massive, and I'm so proud to be doing what I'm doing. 2026 is going to rock. Thank you for your time. Cheers.